Psycho, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Silence of the Lambs. These films are all staples around Halloween, but besides being classic horror flicks, they all share one other thing in common: the twisted real-life figure who inspired them. Every October, horror fans and scaredy cats alike take part in the annual tradition of scaring the hell out of themselves by watching slasher films, cult classics, and the latest paranormal activity. Filmmakers prey on the public's fears by throwing zombies, ghosts, and aliens at them, but the scariest films of all seem to share one particular type of bad guy in common. Zombies can be scary, but we know they're not real. The idea that the killer could be anyone, even someone you know, now that's scary. Then there's Mr. Halloween himself, the man behind Leatherface, Buffalo Bill, and Norman Bates, among others. His name was Ed Gein, and he was truly terrifying. Born in 1906, Edward Theodore Gein lived with his parents and elder brother Henry on an isolated farm near Plainfield, Wisconsin. Ed's mother was a radical Lutheran, only allowing Ed to leave the farm for school and preaching constantly about the immorality of the world, the evil of drinking, and the belief that all women were naturally prostitutes and instruments of the devil. Every afternoon she would read particularly nasty passages from the Old Testament to her sons, usually graphic verses concerning death, murder, and divine retribution. And of course, Ed's father was the antithesis of this pious woman. He had been an alcoholic for years, unable to hold down a job, though he tried his hand at being a carpenter, tanner, and insurance salesman at various points in his life. As a boy, Edward was shy and quiet, often described as odd by his classmates and teachers. He had strange habits such as laughing aloud at his own personal jokes. When he tried to make friends, his mother would punish him, worsening his social issues. Despite these problems, Ed performed well in school. After their father died of heart failure, the boys began doing odd jobs around town to support themselves and their mother. Ed often babysat for neighbors, seeming to relate better to children than adults. Henry began to worry about Ed's affection for their mother and often spoke ill of her, which would anger Ed greatly. In 1944, Ed and Henry were burning away vegetation on the farm when the fire got out of control. By the end of the day, the fire department had extinguished the fire, but Henry was nowhere to be found. Ed reported his brother missing, and that evening a search party located the body, face down in the dirt. He had apparently been dead for some time. The official statement was that Henry had died of asphyxiation while fighting the fire, but many historians suspect that Ed may have killed him, as there were bruises present on Henry's head. There was never any investigation of possible foul play. With the death of his brother, Ed and his mother were now alone. When she had a paralyzing stroke shortly after Henry's death, Ed devoted his time to caring for her. After a second stroke, her health quickly deteriorated, and she died December 29, 1945. Ed Gein was alone in the world. Gein boarded up his mother's rooms and kept the farm afloat by working odd jobs as a handyman and road crew member, and received a farm subsidy in 1951. In the aftermath of his mother's death, Gein's house became more and more squalid. He took to reading death cult magazines and adventure stories, particularly anything involving cannibals or Nazi atrocities. In November of 1957, Gein claimed his first credited victim. Plainfield hardware store owner Bernice Worden was found hanging upside down in Gein's shed, shot, decapitated, and dressed out like a deer. According to the authorities, these mutilations had taken place after her death. Upon searching Gein's house, the police found a menagerie of gruesome trinkets. The entire list consisted of whole human bones and fragments, wastebasket made of human skin covering several chairs and seats, skulls on his bedposts, female skulls, some with the tops sawed off, bowls made from human skulls, a corset made from a female torso skin from shoulders to waist, leggings made from human skin, masks made from female faces, Bernice Worden's head in a burlap sack, Bernice Worden's heart in a plastic bag in front of the stove, 9 vulva in a shoebox, a young girl's dress, and the vulvas of 2 females judged to have been about 15 years old, a belt made from female human nipples, 4 noses, a pair of lips on a window shade drawstring, a lampshade made from the skin of a human face, and a collection of fingernails from female fingers. The police had these articles photographed and then destroyed. When Gein was interrogated on the matter, he confessed to making as many as 40 visits to local graveyards in what he called a daze-like state. He said that during about 30 of those trips he came out of his trance and returned home empty-handed, but every so often he would exhume the bodies of recently dead middle-aged women, take them home with him, and tan their skin for his paraphernalia. All told, Gein confessed to robbing 9 graves, which he showed the authorities. At one of those graves were some rings and body parts Gein had decided to return. Perhaps Gein's most infamous act was creating a woman suit from the bodies of dead women so he could become his mother, to literally crawl into her skin. He denied having sex with any of the bodies, claiming that they smelled too bad. Gein went on trial for murder on November 21, 1957, where he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. He was sent to Central State Hospital for the criminally insane, and was later transferred to the Mendota State Hospital in Madison, Wisconsin, where he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. In 1968, doctors determined Gein was mentally sound enough to stand trial. Gein said that he had been inspecting a gun in Worden's store when it accidentally went off, killing her. He remembered nothing else of the incident. Gein was found guilty of first-degree murder, but a second trial again ruled him not guilty by reason of insanity. He spent the rest of his life in a mental hospital, where he died at the age of 77. Ed Gein has been the perfect character for decades of horror movies. An abusive childhood, secluded with a hyper-religious mother and alcoholic father, culminating in a slew of crimes that were unfathomable to the rest of the world. At the end of the day, there's nothing more terrifying than a deranged human being. Happy Halloween. If you enjoyed this video, please rate and subscribe to stay up to date with the latest content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.